Of June 11th, 2024. We'll start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance led by John.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a few things on open forum tonight. First, the Westford Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is holding a Juneteenth celebration on the town common on Wednesday, June 19th, surprisingly, at 9 a.m. And I think you're...
Yes, I will be representing.
Or is there anything else we should...
It will also then be followed by a reception at the museum and also a presentation about slavery in Westford, as well as, I believe, also a presentation about a black citizen from Westford who served in the Revolutionary War. So everybody is invited to attend.
Thanks. Also, congratulations to Westford Academy and the Shepherd-Tuck class of 2024 and their graduations. We had Westford's graduation on last Friday, and the Tech was held on June 1st. Also, I want to announce the American Legion NAB Post 437, which is the one on Principal Road, will hold their annual Flag Day ceremony on Friday, June 14th, which is Flag Day, by the way, at 6 p.m. If you've never been to this, it's actually kind of cool. They also do a flag disposal ceremony, which, you know, the appropriate disposal of flags with breaking into stars and stripes and burning and so forth with the Boy Scouts. So Friday at 6 o'clock at the Legion Post 437. And also tomorrow, June 12th, the Cameron Senior Center has its 30th anniversary celebration. It'll be at the Cameron from 1:30 to 3 in the multi-purpose room on that first main floor. So hopefully we'll see you there. And one thing I would add, we had a fire on Lawson Road about a week or so ago. If you know Lawson Road, it's a little windy, narrow thing that you do well to get a car down. Picture getting fire trucks down there. If you know the water situation, you know the hydrants are a long ways away from anything. So hauling in 900 feet of hose to get to the fire on a fully involved building. So our appreciation to the fire department for you're doing their job under pretty tough conditions and doing it well. So anything else for open forum from the board, Tom?
The Strawberry and Arts Festival is going on this weekend, this Saturday. Sunday's the rain date, and usually the strawberry shortcake gets served around 11:30 or so. So make sure you're there by then.
Anybody else? You can't top strawberry shortcake. So, anyone from the audience? Okay, so moving along to our consent agenda, we have a street closure request for the end of school celebration. The applicant is Theta Leiden, number 1 through 19 Coolidge Avenue. That'll be on June 19th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Secondly, a request for the town common and bandstand. It's Boston 25 News morning zip trip. I laugh because the requested time is from 3 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. to reflect setup. Don't get there at 3 a.m. to get on camera. The applicant is Boston 25 News, Brittany Everett. This will be on August 2nd, 2024. Is a motion to support subject to public safety comments.
So moved.
Second.
Any debate? John?
I just had a question about that zip trip starting at 3 o'clock in the morning. What's that look like? I mean, there's no description of what's...
Sure. So a few weeks ago, we met with the Fox 25 folks and the police and fire departments and DPW on the Common. They start bringing in their news crews starting around 3 a.m. Generally, they set up a tent the day before for that purpose, but it's really to get them all set up. Their vendors and their sponsors start coming around 5 a.m. They go live on the news at 6 a.m. And then the majority of the programming live on the Common is from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then they're generally out of there by 11:30. My understanding is that they came to town 2015 or 2016 timeframe and used the same location.
Oh, okay.
So we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Audience? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Next, the continuation of the American Rescue Plan Act, AKA ARPA, funding requests. I guess we can review the current situation, Dan, and then we've got a couple of requests that, I don't know if that's you or Kristen with the requests on the radio, but
Sure.
some of the balances and where we are.
Yep,
I'll
I
let
can do
Dan lead the entire
Okay.
conversation. He's prepared for that.
Sure. So this is actually addressing the $350,000 in state ARPA funding from the DPH that we received back in 2022. The original expenditure date for that was supposed to be June 30th of 2023, but we did get a year extension. $300,000 of that was earmarked for the Senior Center HVAC project, which of course we didn't pursue after the bids came back. So we first asked the DPH if we could have an extension for a few more months, and they said no. So then I asked if we could revise the budget and use it for a different project, and they said yes. So in the hopes of preserving those funds and using all $350,000, we did have the police base radio project that we are using ARPA funds for, so we could just switch the state money into that project, spend it all, send a report in, and then we don't have to worry about the state money anymore. We spent it all. So because we transferred that money into the base radio project, we then closed out, I think it was $181,000 from the police base radio account back to the ARPA fund. So starting tonight, before we take any action, we have about $435,000 in the ARPA balance. After we close out the $181,000, we'll have about $616,000 in the ARPA balance, which the select board can use for whatever purpose they choose. So it's giving you some flexibility, and it's taking care of the state timeline issue too. There's a second part to this as well. So in addition to the $300,000 from the state money, the select board had appropriated $500,000 from the town's ARPA fund of $500,000 for the senior center HVAC. So we have about $486,000 remaining from that bucket. However, Jeff Goodwin had met with the Council on Aging, and they have a list of some maintenance projects they'd like resolved at the senior center that I believe they approved in a meeting, Patty, correct me, which is in your packet as well. And they were hoping to use that money that's in those, which the amount I don't have right in front of me, but it's about $142,000.
I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be about 150-ish because they're still waiting on a quote, and then close back the remainder of that appropriation to the ARPA fund as well. So at the end of the day, after we make these adjustments, it looks like we're going to have about $940,000 in the ARPA fund for the select board to use as they wish in the coming months. So it's basically freeing up the money to reuse.
And we have to use that by
And
December.
we have to use that by,
20th.
well, we have to appropriate it by December.
That's correct. So we're recommending using it or appropriating it by September, so we have contracts in place in time so we don't lose that funding.
Actually, we just be
So I'm hoping to do another lump sum to you all in July-ish, you know, a call to department heads for any other projects or ideas that we've talked about to make sure that we're looking at it comprehensively and not piecemeal.
That includes the healthcare.
It does include the healthcare, yes.
John?
And when you say appropriate, does that mean obligate? Instead of appropriate, I mean, we could appropriate.
Obligate, yes.
You have to have a contract, or you have to have something.
Right. You just don't have to spend it. You
Right.
don't have to have
But you
spent
have
it,
to have
but
a
yeah.
contract to do that, yes, okay.
Okay, so you need us to, I presume, vote on the transfer of funds for the radio, or do you need anything from us tonight?
If you'd like to vote, that's great. Just,
Well,
we've had to send a budget in already, full disclosure.
Well, I
so-
don't know if it's fait accompli, or if you actually.
Why not?
We have a motion there.
So we have a motion to apply the remaining balance of the DPH funds of 180,896.62 to the Public Safety Radio Upgrade Project and to expand the use of the town ARPA Senior Center HVAC appropriations to include the repairs indicated in our packet. Is there such a
So
motion?
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Dan.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Beth Perkins.
Wait, come to the microphone, 'cause we-
No, but I would just like, Dan, could you repeat the final number of the total that is currently in the, left in the
Left remaining.
ARPA?
So there's about $940,000 left in the ARPA
Okay,
balance
thank
after
you.
those transactions.
Thank you.
Okay, on to old and new business. The first one is fun because we approved our meeting dates for the calendar year some time ago. And Pam McNiff, in the context of setting up our calendar, realized we picked the 3rd and 5th Tuesdays of July, not the 2nd and 4th. And so the first question is...
Did we have a reason for doing that? I can't even remember.
I don't think we did. I think it was inadvertent. Now, there are reasons to perhaps keep that because of other conflicts. So, and in August, do we want to have 2 meetings? Sometimes we fall back on 1. But first question would be July. If we check calendars, I'm actually happier with the 3rd and 5th, given my vacation, but I've got a very capable vice chair, so I'm not that worried about it.
And I also have a vacation scheduled for the week of the 9th, so I'm happy with the 16th and 30th, but I have 2 capable assistant town managers that could cover that meeting as well.
So Scott, you're away the week of the 27th.
Correct.
You are, I'm as well. So if we can meet quorum on the 30th, right now the 16th and 30th, the proposal is to leave them, right?
That is the
That's
question.
the current schedule, and if that works.
That works for me.
Yeah, 16, 30.
So you can all be there, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay with that.
yeah, so we'd have quorum.
16 and 30? Okay.
And do the dates in August, the 13th and the 27th, work for people?
Right now, yes.
Okay. So leave those alone.
What were they again, sorry?
In August?
13th and
13th and the 27th.
The
Which are
normal.
The 2nd and 4th.
That's fine.
Yeah, the 27th is, I assume school's starting, so,
It is.
yeah,
If we have a really quiet agenda, we can always decide to combine into one, but
yeah.
for the moment, keep them where they are. Okay. Next is to review the sustainability tasks and initiatives moving forward after June 30th, 2024. We all, I hope, read Mike's email in our packets, so we have that grounding in common. I'm sure you want to add to that.
Sure, absolutely. Just for members of the public and those watching, at your last meeting, there was correspondence from certain members of the public related to their concern of how the town was going to be handling sustainability efforts moving forward based upon the ballot vote that did not include the sustainability coordinator in the fiscal 25 budget. Over the past month, Mike Edwards, the assistant town manager for strategic operations, has been meeting with myself, the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and the current sustainability coordinator to understand the activities that have been occurring since we've had a sustainability coordinator for the town of Westford. And we prepared a memorandum for your consideration related to the activities that are currently ongoing related to green communities, the investment grade audit, the Westford POP community aggregation program, the municipal electricity and gas contracting, utility incentives, fleet electrification, electric vehicle charging stations, bootstrap compost, and others. Based upon the conversations that we've had, the majority of these matters will be handled by the town manager's office or by other departments. We have already signed contracts or we've received grants that we are obligated to fulfill that, and we will do so. There's also 3 goals that the Select Board and the Clean Energy and Sustainability group had agreed upon when you adopted the climate roadmap about a year ago, related to the investment grade audit, solar siting planning, and transportation electrification and charging plan. So those are all integrated, and we feel that we can continue to do that. We currently have Beacon, our contractor, under contract to review the investment grade audit and then work with the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee and our facilities department on what may come out of that in concert with the Select Board. They are also looking at potential solar siting related to town buildings through Beacon, and I think transportation electrification and charging plan could come with that. We did note that we do have limited town staff resources, and that's known through most departments now with the cuts that we have had, but I've been entering entering into conversations with the NIMCOG executive director. They're really bringing on some additional sustainability functions through their group, and I feel like we can partner with them and build some strong synergies for them to assist the town in some of the sustainability efforts that we may not be able to get to related to not having a budget for the sustainability coordinator. So that's a brief overview. There's a lot more detail in the memo. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
So questions from the board?
First, I want to compliment Mike on, I think, a good first draft of moving the discussion to specific goals so we can kind of map to a timeline and measure. I feel like we have not done a good job yet as a select board in migrating this to here's what the biggest impact is, this is when we're going to get it done by. So one suggestion I had for Mike was if there was a way, maybe in concert with the Clean Energy Committee, to sort of identify where the biggest opportunities were in terms of savings and in terms of carbon reduction in the various things that we're looking at. Because I would love to be able to look at the next version of this report and say, 80% of the opportunity that we've identified jointly is under timeline to some kind of solution. The remaining 20% we don't have resources for now, or it would require a trade-off somewhere else that we can't accept. I would just feel like we're doing a better job by the public in saving money and also achieving our carbon reduction goals if we could work it in that way and introduce some kind of regular metric review. It could be part of the efficiency committee that we're already setting up. That could be a good place for it. But just some way we can we can decide what the goal is and then measure ourselves against it and review each time. Maybe we need to adjust the goal, but I'll just feel a lot better about being able to tell the voters exactly how much progress we're making if we can migrate to, again, just weighting these things by carbon reduction potential and savings potential. And so we can, in a quick scan, say 60% or 80% or 85% of the total opportunity we've got a real plan for. But mostly a compliment to Mike, because it's a big project to pull together and sort of boil down, all these different elements the way he did.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so I appreciate the memo. I think a lot of thought and went into making it. I completely agree that the one thing that I saw lacking from that is how are we going to track success? What is success for those three projects? So I'm glad you covered that. The other thing that struck me is this investment grade audit. So far hasn't had a superb track record of moving forward in an expedient fashion, right? So I worry if that doesn't happen, do we have other goals that we can fill the breach with, the gap with? And can you suggest any off the top of your head that you might think would work?
Absolutely. So I don't want to speak for the facilities department, but we've been having those conversations of if this investment grade audit does not work out, the facilities department is very interested in moving forward in some of the projects that they're already aware of related to the Westford Academy HVAC system, some of the insulation programs. I think we've done most of the lighting changes in many of the buildings, but there's still a few extras. So those are the ones that bounce off the top of my head at this point in time, but I think we would have to circle back with facilities and rely on our Tecton space analysis and capital study that we're embarking on this month to revisit that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So I guess my thoughts were similar to Tom's, that I think in general we've been approaching sustainability as picking off low-hanging fruit, not necessarily the most nutritious fruit. So it's easy to buy electric vehicles, relatively speaking. We're doing a school roof. Okay, let's put solar on it. But I am thinking about how do we be more proactive to say what is the best bang for the buck for the taxpayer, but also the goal here really is to reduce emissions, right? So where is we get the best bang for the buck in terms of doing that? And I'm not convinced we actually have done that yet. In fact, I don't think anyone really has, for the most part. That's and one of the intriguing things about NEMCOG is that's what they've been good at with housing. We've used them with transportation. They do have a big picture for the region, and we don't make a big difference with a new EV vehicle, we do make a big difference if we put a solar farm on an old quarry, right? So those kinds of thoughts that we might get from experts that they can afford to hire and share would be I think, a plus, especially if the audit works out great. We're going to get all kinds of stuff. And the question is, how do we finance it, right? But if it doesn't work out, we want to have our own, fallback position. Tom?
The only other thing I meant to say, I forgot, is it's explicit that in an environment where we're looking at less resource, that there are going to have to be some things that we're deciding we're not going to do in favor of other things that have higher priority. So I don't know if it fits in this report or not, or if it's a more general conversation, but every time we say we need this much resource to hit timeline on this piece of carbon, of carbon reduction stuff, and we could establish that as the priority, I also think it's fair to say, then this is what we're not going to be able to do anymore, because this is something that we would love to do, but it's going to fall off the bottom of the prioritized resource list. I just don't want the staff to be in a position where they feel like we're just shoving more and more in the sack. We have to create space for them to say, love it, I would love to work on that. This means I can't work on this piece anymore. And I just want to make sure we all look at those and nod our heads so the staff doesn't feel like it's a never-ending treadmill.
Right.
Because I think we're realistically looking at having to do, having less and less to work with in terms of resource over the next several years.
And I want to just add to that, as we certainly heard the board at your last meeting about understanding the priorities at this point in time, but also laying out the goals in the future. We want to work with the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee and your board to lay out those goals. That was not the goal for this evening. It was really to get a snapshot in time of what we're facing right now and into the near future. But we know that Clean Energy wants to come before you with certain initiatives, and we want to help lay the groundwork and the framework to understand what those are, what the costs are, what the staff capacity is, the staff challenges, and what the board's desire are as well. So this is certainly step one in the conversation, certainly many more conversations to come.
Because I think there's short-term goals, and then there are long-term goals. And I don't think that we should lose sight of what the long-term goal here is and what the long-term picture is. And yes, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we're not going to reach our long-term goals in a day or a year or even 2 or 3 years. But I think it's important that they stay on our radar and that they stay on, some list, some mission statement, some document, so that we have always in our sight that, yes, here's where we're trying to get to, and here are the steps that we're taking each year to get to those steps. And I think that's an important piece that can't be lost. For now, I think that stays in the town manager's office. At some point in time in the future, if we're in a place where we can, hire a sustainability coordinator again, then that, obviously that can flip back to that individual. But for now, I think it stays somewhere in the town manager's office.
Yeah, my favorite billboard of all time, well, almost all time, was at the Big Dig in Boston. If Rome were built in the day, we'd hire their architect. My humor for the night. Chris, you had a...
Yeah.
The Big Dig in some places should have hired a new architect, but that's a whole entire different story.
Yeah, so, again, when I was reading the memo, one thing that jumped out at me was this is going to come underneath the, responsibilities of the facilities director. And I saw that a lot. And I think that's correct, but I also worry about the facilities director's bandwidth and capabilities to manage projects that maybe aren't purely sustainability focused, right? Because we know we have aging infrastructure, we have to replace all sorts of things, and that needs to be a priority. And obviously, when we do those types of projects, we try to bring sustainability as much as possible into the project scope. But I just want to make sure that when you have to sit down with him, he feels comfortable taking on all this and has the necessary bandwidth and resources to be successful.
We've had preliminary conversations. I would say that no one has the bandwidth to do everything right now.
Of course.
So we are going to be prioritizing down even closer to what we understand and what we know, but many of the projects that the facilities director undertakes have that sustainability lens wrapped into it. So, and he will have all the support he needs from the town manager's office as well.
I know when we originally sort of spec'd that position out, he was supposed to, the person filling that role was supposed to have an assistant of some sort, and I'm sure that had been put on hold. But in my mind, that almost looks to be where I would try to fill next, is somebody who could help on the facility side with a strong background with sustainability. Because I think, you know, having somebody that has knowledge to manage these projects is going to be critical for their success. And there's been numerous times where, you know, I've sat in capital planning sessions and we're looking to spend millions of dollars to fix something that, you know, may have been caught if we had appropriate oversight at the time that that work was going on. And if we can reduce those occurrences, I think that's going to be a huge cost saver. So, yeah, maybe it's not this year, obviously, that we could do that, but something in the future.
John?
And we do have a permanent town building committee that could be wrapped into that equation also.
Okay, any,
I have a question, Kristen. In terms of what we do provide for the Clean Energy Committee, I know that one of their concerns is staff support and whether they will maintain and keep staff support. Is that built into this? Because it wasn't in the memo, but I just wanted to ask if that's built in.
So we didn't include it in the memo because it is evolving. I know that Mike Edwards has had conversations with Mike Berlinski about that, and we understand that that's a main priority. It may not be the same staff person at every meeting, but there will be a staff person based upon the project and the work that they're doing.
A senior person.
Yes, either facilities director, assistant town manager, DPW director, or someone of that
Perfect.
level.
okay, and any comments from our audience? I'm sure that might come on up.
Thank you. Hi, Mike Berlinski, Chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. So maybe actually two questions and one comment. So first question, I didn't hear that you're ordering allocating funding for the sustainability coordinator position. So that's just, I know, a long shot, but just didn't hear that last time and didn't hear at this select board meeting. So just wanted to acknowledge that. A question on the memo about the mission criticality. So just was wondering if you could maybe define that mission criticality, because it's sort of distinguished from high priority. You know, for our committee, you know, all these activities are mission critical, right? We're trying to guide the town to a net zero goal by 2050, and every little bit counts, and we have time, but we're far from being net zero. So just wanted to see if you could maybe define that or explain a little bit, just so we know sort of that language.
Sure. So I think that we're actually doing a lot of work right now related to our strategic plan and what is our mission, what is mission critical. I would say that right now it's making sure that we have safety for our streets and our residents. So that is one thing through police and public safety and fire, that we're plowing the roads and keeping the roads safe for people to pass by and travel through, that we're collecting taxes and managing that money to make sure that we continue to stay forward. Certainly some of the sustainability efforts would be mission critical, but those are some of the high level things that we need to operate as a town that are very critical.
Right, okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Does anyone on the board
distinction.
feel like they want to add to
No,
that?
that was good.
Right. So, and definitely appreciate the detailed memo. A lot of important initiatives and goals, and some of our new goals, and say it's all important to us. We're trying to guide the town to make recommendations to achieve our town goals. We do appreciate the select board comments and really take that to heart. And we've been thinking about, we really need to get a little more solid on metrics and trying to put more terms, timeline, and strategy for our goals. So we appreciate that. We'll keep working on that. I just also wanted to acknowledge we appreciate that, you know, having a sustainability coordinator attend our meetings. So we had that staff coverage at our meetings. And I just wanted a shout out for Sue Thomas, because we really appreciate all the effort she did on behalf of the town. And I think Sue did a phenomenal job. And we look forward to working, Kristen, with you and your staff, you know, to help continue to fulfill our mission to guide the town to its sustainability goals. So I just wanted to thank you all for your support.
Anybody else? Beth? Then Emily.
Does Perkins, 9 Patriot Lane, and also on the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. And just want to, Mike did a great job, but just wanted to add one thing. We have not yet seen the IGA, like the rest of you. We haven't reviewed it yet. But as we all remember, it was going to be a portfolio-wide assessment of all of our municipal buildings, bringing forth what projects we could do that would save money, save carbon, and all of that. I'm hoping that we're going to find that when we sit down and review it. However, if it doesn't appear that we have the substance there that we're counting on, I would like to ask that we consider having access to additional consulting money to go after a plan, a more thorough plan of what we need to do with our municipal buildings. And for instance, solar siting, where are the best places for us to have solar panels? Where, you know, these are the things that we're hoping to get from the IGA, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. And I think that with the complicated scenario we have, you know, we know that there's an unprecedented amount of money out there, federal and state money, to work on these kind of municipal sustainability projects, solar, et cetera. We want the expertise to know that we're going to have the expertise on how to best go after all that funding. And that's one of the things I know a lot of us are worried about in the sustainability community now, is how are we going to make sure that we get our share. I forwarded a Boston Globe article to everybody about, you know, what other towns are doing. So we want to make sure we get our share, and I think might be smart to think about the use of some, could be the ARPA money that's out there, but some dollars for consulting to help us get there. Thank you.
I have a question, sort of, is NIMCOG in the past has helped us with finding money, with writing grants, and so I guess I'm wondering if, in part, in response to Beth, what Beth just said, is will NIMCOG be able to help us in that way?
I can certainly ask them that question. I haven't had a sit-down formal discussion of all of the details and of that, but I can certainly ask of that. I would expect that they would be able to.
I mean, they're a regional, you know, entity, and I would think that they should have knowledge and access to what's out there in terms of money and grants and federal and state opportunities. I would certainly hope so.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems it's almost like two skill sets. One is identifying the need from a engineering technical perspective, and then the other is grant writing, right? So some of these grants are really simple, you check boxes. Some of them are much more complicated, so the NIMCOG's got the staff to help us out with the complicated ones. That would be good. Tom?
I just wanted to ask Kristen to help me remember the timeline. So all the money for ARPA has to be fully committed by December, but we basically have to decide and make a final call on what we're doing with it in September, October.
That's what would be prudent, to make sure that we have enough time to get into contracts with people and firms by December of 2024. End
Okay.
of December 2024.
Is our best understanding from Beacon that we'll have a chance to assess the quality of the investment grade audit like pretty soon?
I was gonna say, do we know when?
So we can execute on best plan.
So she's had the plan for a few weeks. She has promised us that next week she will have her comments to us. So we'll have a better understanding next week if there's any fatal flaws in that report, and we'll be able to share that report with the Select Board and the Clean Energy Committee. I know the Clean Energy Committee wanted to have a bit of time with that before bringing that to the Select Board for their presentation.
Okay, so just in support of Beth's idea and the committee, if there's time, but probably not a lot of time, if we detect some enormous hole in what they've recommended that we want to try to recruit a consultant for, does the money have to be committed and used? So if you create
Not used, it has to
Not
be
used.
committed. It doesn't have to be used till December of 2026. So you could
Okay.
sign a 2-year contract.
Okay, so if you put out to bid a consulting contract to fill some important hole in our sustainability strategy, you'd have to sign an agreement but not commit the funds by the end of this year.
Well, signing the agreement would be committing the funds, but you would not have to pay the funds until
Exhaust the
December
funds.
1st.
So if December 1st you sign the agreement, that's okay. If you don't have an agreement signed until January 1st, it's too late.
Correct. We need December 31st is
Okay.
the date.
Thanks.
Else? Okay, yeah, sorry, I promised you, Emily, it should be next, sorry.
Emily Teller, 9 Texas Road. I have a couple questions and then some comments. Kristen, I outlined 3 goals, but you went so fast I didn't get the middle goal. So you said to review the IGA, and then there was something else, and then change the plan.
Yeah, so the 3 goals that the Select Board and the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee agreed to when they presented and we adopted the roadmap was the pursuit and the completion of the investment grade audit, a solar siting plan,
Oh, okay.
and Beacon, who we're working with, has a small component looking at solar siting for town properties. So we expect that to come soon from Beth Greenblatt of Beacon. And then transportation electrification and and charging plan.
Is that municipal only, or
So that
is
is,
it
I think
townwide?
it needs to be broken down a little bit. So right now it's very broad and wide,
Okay.
town-wide, not specific to town property versus private property.
And then, Scott, you went so fast, I missed something too. I just wanted to ask about it. Oh, you were talking about if something works out, but if not, we want the fallback position. And I wasn't sure what you were talking about, if it works out.
Well, just a great audit, we have not
Fine.
seen yet,
Okay.
and we know that there's a
Is
lot
it
of.
around? Has anybody gotten it?
No, well, it's
with the
complete. but
consultant.
with the
It's with
consultant.
the consultant that the town of Westford is paying to do a cursory review to make sure there's no fatal flaws in the document before it goes public. So it's still a draft document.
And so when it comes to you, it will go public, and then,
Which
do you know when that'll be?
anticipated next week,
This coming week?
next week of the 17th.
Okay. Thank you for your patience about that. My second thing is federal grants. I'm concerned about who will be applying for federal grants. And obviously, we were just sort of talking about that a little bit, and maybe NIMCOG. But the article that Beth forwarded to you quoted people both at the state level with the MAPC, which is the analogous Boston area, NIMCOG. MAPC is the Boston area. So that isn't really us. And then there was a woman quoted from the Clean Energy Director at the MAPC, which is Julie Curdy, and also Joanne Becerra, who's the Director of the Green Communities Division. So that article is pretty important, I think. And some things I just want to reread from that is, having an in-house sustainability officer can greatly enhance a community's odds of winning major grants for local climate-friendly improvements, including solar panels that lower electricity bills, vehicle chargers, and energy-efficient upgrades. So all those are the 3 goals that Kristen talked about. And the last time this woman tracked every dollar that was spent, they were able to get $5.23 back in benefits. So I guess my first question is, do you at all plan to fund a sustainability coordinator for next year in any way by any funds?
No, I think the answer is no.
Okay, I just wanted that, I mean, Mike made a statement, I'm making a question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think certainly there's value in that position. If we didn't have a failed override, we would be still having that position. I do personally question if every city and every town and city in the state had a sustainability coordinator, we as a state would spend over $30 million on staff that created 0 watts of electric power. So I do think there is a need to regionalize this expertise to maximize the money going into actually reducing carbon as opposed to creating a lot of administration. But that's just my personal feeling. Townwide, we're looking at a strategy that says we're going to use existing staff, we're going to try to leverage our regional planner, and we can't make up for Susan. We'll do our best to backfill.
And so the ARPA money can't be used for that in any way. That's my understanding. You can't use ARPA for a salaried position.
You could.
You could, but
You
what
could.
happens when the ARPA money runs out?
You can only use it. You can only do it through 2026, and
Right.
probably even 2024 because it's not a contract. I don't know how that would work.
It's a policy, I think, of the board not to use
Right.
one-time
But yeah.
funds to fund ongoing operating costs.
And the only thing I'll just mention, Emily, is that so I think that Beth's idea is a really good idea, so I hope if there is a hole that we identify, that there is a consulting proposal brought forward for ARPA funding in the time that we have. But most of that money is earmarked for either healthcare or retirement benefit requirements that will make the burden less in near future budgets and allow us to preserve more services and more personnel in future budgets. So it may seem like there's this big pile of money, but the pile of money has a very clear and well-defined purpose, which is to offset some of the burden from fiscal 26, 27, 28, so that we can preserve as much as we can in those years. So if we exhaust all that money doing something else, that money won't be available for the purposes of basically supplementing our health insurance trust and or supplementing our retirement benefits fund.
But I thought Kristen said it had to be spent by 2026.
It does, but it can be put into those trusts during the time that we have.
For 27 and 28.
Exactly. Once they're in the trust funds,
They're spent.
then they're
Okay, they're
available for
encumbered,
use in future
basically.
budgets.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a better word.
Yeah, it's a little bit wonky, but
Okay.
I just want to be clear for the public that it may seem like, well, why aren't we using this money? We are using this money, every penny, and we're using it to try to make the next 2 or 3 years reduce the pain as much as we possibly can. But-
So that's what Kristen's coming back with in July, to basically earmark
Yes.
that 900,000 or whatever.
Even if we were to stop the trust fund and go towards a different kind of health care, we still have obligations that we've incurred under
All
that
the what?
fund. We have obligations that we've incurred, so no one's going to say, oh, we're going to ignore your hundreds of thousands of dollars of backlog and just give you the insurance today. We have to sort of pay that off too. So whatever we do with healthcare, trust fund or something else, we've got some serious holes to fill there, given our experience rating.
Okay. And is there a liaison from the select board to the CEASC?
There are two of us.
Okay.
John,
Okay,
John has a
excellent.
much better attendance record than I do, but we're both on it.
And will you be having regular meetings with CEASC and the select board? Or is it just, has the representative met with, you guys meet with the whole CEASC, correct? So there is some of that whole committee sense communicated back to the select board.
Right. But they're like a liaison, like any
Right.
other liaison to a
Right.
committee, and they report back to us, and if there is, at some sense, as we've done in the past, that the CEASC wants to meet with the board, then we schedule them, and they come in, and we all meet together.
And the last thing I would like to do, Westford Climate Action, I'm not speaking for the whole group, but obviously I'm a member, and I just wanted to remind you that October 18th was when, 2020, was when the resolution was passed by town meeting to do the following. In response to this escalating climate crisis, Westford commits to take actions to promote clean energy and reduce fossil fuel use, including promoting energy-efficient upgrades in all town facilities and in private homes and businesses, and purchasing the highest percentage of clean, renewable energy in town contracts as feasible. The Select Board will charge a task force with studying and making recommendations for specific strategies for Westford to achieve the Commonwealth of Massachusetts limit of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 with intermediate goals. The committee will provide a plan to the Select Board within 9 months of receiving its charge, and it will report the town's progress toward these goals annually at town meeting. I feel like we were making really good progress, and I'm really worried about the progress from June of 2024 forward. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
There's no one online.
Okay, oh, yep, sorry, go ahead.
Barbara Terrio, 8 Tadmuck Lane. I'm a Westford Climate Action founder. I sent a letter to the board and to Kristen about another way to look at how we're dealing with the sustainability in our town and what to keep in mind first and foremost. We already acknowledge the effects of climate change, like the rising sea levels, the hotter temperatures, and the extreme weather. But there's another impact that we don't talk about that much, and that is how the individual's ability to think and make decisions is also being affected. in a way that's going to become a public health crisis, basically. So I brought this book to show you, and I will read just one little bit from the flap. And a noted neuroscientist, his name is Clayton Page Aldern. He wrote this book. It's called The Weight of Nature, How a Changing Climate Changes Our Brains. So, this is what I'm going to just quote from. The changing environment with hotter temperatures can make it harder to think clearly and problem solve. And it can increase the chance of impulsive violence. Air pollution, heat waves, and hurricanes can warp and wear on your memory, your language, and your sensory systems. Wildfires seed PTSD. Climate-fueled ecosystem changes extend the reach of brain disease carriers like mosquitoes. And we all know this. But I really want to emphasize how important the work is that we're doing on sustainability, especially following through with the roadmap and the resolution that Emily mentioned. We need to continue to press forward, and we don't want to lose any ground at this point. I know there are considerations for money and so forth, but maybe the commitment and the ideas behind what we're doing will resonate with you, and that basically we can't let our children and our grandchildren down. So all of you, thank you for the work that we're going to continue to do with sustainability. Thanks.
I have a very simple benchmark. From the day I was born, basically, that's that summer till now, my parents have vacationed in Ocean Park, Maine. I know how much beach there was there when I was about 8 or 10. I know how much is there now. It's a lot less. So I've got a really concrete, actually it's a very sandy benchmark of what's happening that I can monitor, but thank you. If there's nothing else, we have another discussion point of our town manager goals, which we've all have in our packets. Some of them still applicable, some of them need tweaking, some of them need to be tossed entirely and perhaps replaced. And I guess the question also is, we want 17 goals. Is that a bit much, and should we make that more like 10 or 12?
So the purpose of me providing the fiscal 24 goals was to just have a starting point. As you reviewed my performance over the course of the past 15 months, I did prepare an update of those goals for you. I have not included that in the packet. I wanted this to be a little bit cleaner. So I have this as a starting point for what we may want to look at in terms of fiscal 25 goals. I'm not expecting a huge robust conversation this evening unless you want to have that. I know we had a retreat type discussion last year related to goals, but I do want to get ahead of the fiscal 25 goals in the June-July timeframe to make sure that we're planning appropriately for any fiscal 25 budget adjustments that we need to make as well. We didn't set fiscal 24 until September for various reasons. So this is really just a starting point. Some of the fiscal 24 goals will be ongoing. Some you may wish to come off, and then there may be others that you've thought of over the course of the time to add. So again, this is, for me at least, it was really just an expectation of a starting point.
So does anybody want to make comments tonight, or is this more a case of because it's the opening salvo and engage for...
We want to have another one of how we set these last time. I mean, when we met over at the church, and was that helpful?
It was helpful. I would suggest it did not appear to be very open. So I would
I recall.
I appreciate the church's offer. I think I'd rather do it here.
I'd
You
rather
can do it at Rodenbush or somewhere else if you wish. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather do it here or someplace a little bit more public. It seems to me, when we did it last year, we were kind of starting, as I recall, in somewhat of a vacuum.
Yep.
I think this year, we can start with where we were, you know, let's look at the goals for fiscal year '24. Let's look at where are we now? Certainly, you know, there are some that can come off. You achieved them. The town achieved them, so we don't need them. There are some sustainability that are going to stay on there. And so I think maybe, I guess I see this as a two-step process. The next step being for all of us to look at the goals and assess where we are, come up with anything, you know, we may want, and then perhaps the second step is to do what we did last year in a more public place than the church. The church was lovely, but to, you know, further sort of tease out what the goals are, and also again to give the public the opportunity to comment and to participate. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And also sometimes when you give people a draft of something to start with, it's much easier than creating something out of whole cloth.
Tom?
I'm just following up on your point, Scott, whether in an environment where we're going to have to be making really tough choices and prioritizing really tightly, if we want to start with the idea of focusing on 10, not after we do our individual work and our collective work. I just think it would be an interesting thing if we actually talked about how would we force prioritize these so that we don't have creep of 15, 20 of these things. So just an idea we don't have to agree on. But and I guess a question to Kristen, if she's got anything that she thinks would be helpful if we want to make this a more useful guiding document, either now or later, if there's something we should be thinking about or highlighting or something you felt was missing. That'd be very helpful to us.
I think this spanned a lot of efforts and a lot of departments and a lot of domains of the town. I'd certainly love for you to continue to think about our strategic planning efforts and how that might play into the goals we have for fiscal '25, and then also taking into account the work of the budget task force and that report. And we know we're going to be constrained. I think if we can have a conversation about specific metrics of dates or when these need to be met or expectations, that might help the board and the staff as well formulate more of a matrix and those priorities.
I was thinking mechanically or calendar-wise, you know, if September 11th is our meeting with the strategic planning consultants, correct?
Correct.
And certainly some of the goals should reflect that report, and we'll have it in advance, but I was thinking through when we would actually want to get together to plan a date to have a goal-setting workshop again. You know, September's getting kind of late.
I believe it's late. I think we can always adjust the goals. We can always add them, but I think we should have something in place by a July timeframe if we can. And I want to continue to scooch it up a little bit, so we're maybe talking about goals in April, May, to start in July, but even backing that up even more, so we're having the goals inform the budget to inform what we do in the next year. So we'll probably continue to scooch it a month or two each year,
so
in my mind, but whatever the board would like to do, we're happy to do that.
So our first, was it tri-board, or what we're calling it, session on budget efficiencies and so forth, June 27th. So July makes some sense, because it's a pretty tough month with vacations, but John?
I like what Andrea said. Last time we went through the goals that we had previously, and we said, yes, keep it going, and we actually did this individually, and then provided it to the chair and provided it to the town manager. And then we went ahead and discussed that, and then we weaned it down to the ones that we have. So what if we take this and get back to Kristen with our own individual thoughts on this, be compiled, and then we can address that at a meeting that we choose at the time we choose. But do it by next meeting, perhaps.
So we get our comments back to Kristen by June 27th, I guess, maybe 25th is the next meeting?
25th.
And then the 25th, we could pick a date in July to regroup again and go over that? Is that what we're thinking?
I think that'd be a process.
Does that work?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, deal.
All right.
So our homework is between now and the next one to edit
Yes, and ideally not on the 24th.
Yeah, maybe add
for-
to it, try to comment on these, because some of them have been done, like the MBTA thing is gonna be done, but then again, it, you know,
That turns into a new goal, right?
yeah, that's what I want. So I want to keep that committee open until we have the final result, though.
Yeah, I just want to, just for Chris's benefit, don't send it all on the 24th, send it like the 20th, someplace, so she has time to compile it.
Yeah. Okay.
Having gone through the review process, and I got, I think, 3 out of the 4, or 3 out of the 5, you know, I think the day of it was due, so. Anyway, I know, I was the same way, when I was not chair, I was as bad, so. Chris?
Yeah, so, sorry, just want clarity. Are we looking to reduce the number?
Yes.
Part of our, and do we have a feeling for what the number should be? You threw out 10, but.
Maybe in my draft, I'll make a top 10.
I was
with
going to
the-
say, we've always tried to do like between 10 and 12. We've always thought that was sort of a workable, doable number. We got carried away last year.
And if there's anything that I'm thinking of that's not on the list too, I'll share that with the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to an easy one. The request from the Westford Housing Authority to appoint Barbara Upperman as attendant board member for the term expiring May 5th, 2029. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review and act to make one Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, NEMCOG, select board appointment, one planning board appointment, and one alternate appointment.
How do we make a planning board?
Yeah, that's
appointment?
not
We're
what he
not the
asked, is it?
planning board.
I think we need to send direction to the planning board that they
Okay.
need to appoint someone.
Okay.
And the alternate is from our board?
I believe it's been Bruce Rosenberg
Okay.
has been the alternate.
Oh, and he liked doing that.
I believe
so
he
like-
likes doing it, so
Okay,
I would
good.
consider him.
Okay, so we have an alternate picked. Well, we mind the planning board to find a volunteer, so we need to have our own volunteer.
I did not do a good job with this. I
Nobody-
attended
no.
like 2.
Don't worry, nobody does.
Okay. Well, honestly, I just want to give my feedback. I just felt like of the 2 that I went to, you know, it was fun. I heard from other, you know, select board members, but it's just, there wasn't a lot of substance. I would have loved to have been brought into the meetings when there was something that concerned Westford. Sure, pull me in, but just to sit there and hear about other communities, talk about X, Y, and Z, it just wasn't something I could, you know, if I had all the time in the world, great, but I didn't, so I had to make choices.
You went the first person with that diagnosis.
Yes, yes.
Almost a lot of hands going up. And
I mean, I'm fine to keep it on. I just, you know, I can just make I can really just
That's
very limited
They just
engagement.
need a name.
Sure. So
and if we actually get to a point where there's a legitimate
Yeah.
sustainability discussion, then, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're,
I think that's the main purpose, is you get their agendas and you see what's on the agenda. And if
Right.
something like sustainability came up, you would go, oh, yes,
Yep.
I should probably go to this one. You know, if they're talking about, you know, Route 3A and Bill Ricker or something.
that has come up, right?
And I don't mean to denigrate Bill Ricker or Route 3A, but, you know, not important to Westford.
John?
We have an up-to-date list of what each one of us is doing as far as liaison to other committees and.
We're happy to do that at the next, if you'd like, we can do that at the next meeting. I think we failed to put that on the last agenda because we did not have a change in board members as we had it last year. So the slate of the board stayed the same, but we're happy to prepare that for you for your next meeting and have a further conversation.
Yeah, probably update on the appointments that we have.
Yep, we can do that.
Emily? We've actually had some dual appointments in a few committees.
Chris, could you also be proactive with NIMCOG and ask them about their sustainability help? Or is that more appropriate coming from your office?
That's me. So I meet with them monthly in a manager's roundtable, and
Okay.
that's been part of the conversation, and I will be meeting with them separately. So Chris can certainly back me up and push and say the select board is for this, but I'm very comfortable with doing that with the NIMCOG
Okay.
staff.
That'd be great to, double-head it. That'd be good.
Sure.
Because they're great. They have a new director, and I met
She's
her at the
wonderful.
business forum, and, yeah, it was great, so thanks.
Yep.
Next, we have to follow up on the annual town manager performance review. Chris is very laid back tonight in spite of this, but so last meeting we had the public review. A little different. In other years, we've had that after, which I think is kind of backwards, and I think the new way makes more sense. And so, there's that executive session we met to discuss, the follow-up to what that means in terms of money. Let's be clear. So contractually, we have a contract with Kristen, as with other, some of our other department heads, that does specify a COLA of 2% for the year. So that's a given in the contract that's probably already kicked in on June 1st. July 1st will kick in. On top of that, our non-union personnel have some discretionary bonus, if you will.
I would say
merit increases. Because it lasts forever. It's not a bonus. It's not a one-time. It's permanent. And the pool for that is about 2% roughly, and Chris administers that across the staff. It varies, of course, based upon performance. So, take that into account. Kristen's score was 43 out of 50 on average from this board. 90. It's higher than that because it goes to. No, that's right. That's right. It goes 50. It goes to 50.
Categories, 5.
It was 43 out of 50.
46.
No, it's no.
43, I think, was the average.
The average, yeah. Trust me, I did it in my little spreadsheet. Better 40.5, but they're about. Anyway, the point was a very, very strong review, and so we agreed that we should, go with the best we can do is go with the average, which would be the 2% adjustment.
Merit increase.
And it would merit increase, and it would take effect because you have a contract. It's kind of odd. You're about as far as you can get from being either in one or other fiscal years in February 1st. So it'll be retroactive to February 1st. We need to work in the coming year to get the timing back down to the rest of our budget. But for the moment, that's the 2% for back to February 1st. So thank you for a very tough but very strong year, and hopefully an easier one. But I don't think it will be. Any other comments?
I just think that she did an amazing job. The town did an amazing job bringing on that annual town meeting. That was superb. So.
Yeah, there's pictures of
Not to mention
airplanes
some of the other
landing
things
without a wheel. That was an amazing landing on that town meeting. Next, minutes for release, minutes for approval, but not for release, is the executive session of April 23rd, 2024. Is a motion to approve, but not release?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Board reports and updates. Do we have any?
No, but I have a question.
Okay.
And I couldn't figure out where to ask it, so I'll ask it here in terms of an update. Where are we with the updating the town's website?
Well, that's a good question. It's on our list of goals, right?
It is on the list
Yeah.
of goals, yes. So the town staff has had a working group put together since January to solicit feedback from the staff, solicit feedback from the public through surveys, and has finally been meeting with our website vendor, Civic Plus. We had thought that we were on their schedule to complete this by July 1st. They informed us that we were not on the schedule. We had several contact changes with them. They had changes in staff. So I anticipate that we will be completed with them by mid-August now. So we will not meet the July 1st deadline, but we will likely meet the late summer deadline on that. We chose as a group kind of a color scheme in the past few weeks, and now Civic Plus is going back and forming some variations for us related to navigation and search bars and page setup. So that group continues to meet very regularly.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, Tom first, then.
I just wanted to, it came up earlier in the meeting, but a big part of our focus for the year is following up on the efficiencies identified by the Budget Task Force. So I just want to reiterate that the 27th from 7 to 9, Is that at Millennium?
Yes.
Yes.
At
And,
Millennium.
and Zoom.
Millennium and online. Please join us for that. It's a great way to be involved civically. We're going to dig right into some of the areas for opportunity for us to be more efficient and provide more for less where we can. So just encourage anyone who's interested in that to please join us.
Actually, Chris, did you have your hand up first, and then?
No, I'm good, thank
Okay,
you.
John?
That's gonna be 3 boards, right?
Yes.
FinCom,
Yep. It'll,
School
exactly.
Committee. Select-
Yes.
Right,
okay.
it's all three, well, I guess 2 elected boards and FinCom, so lots of work for us to do.
I feel like the Harry Potter Tri-Wizard Tournament. The three of us. Town manager's report.
Great. So the first is, at your last meeting, we had an executive session to review some adjustments to the fiscal 25 non-union paying classification plan that was related to merit adjustments that I would like to make for fiscal 25. We failed to add that to the agenda as a formal matter, so looking for you to just formally adopt that pay and classification plan.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is Kyle Fox, our DPW director, received a request from Girl Scout Troop 85009 to plant 2 maple trees valued at $1,166.63 on the town common. As you have control over the town common, we'd like to get your blessing for that acceptance of those trees.
And since Kyle Warden is also our tree warden, I presume he's okay with it?
So Kyle Fox and I spoke about this. As these trees are not considered public shade trees, he does not have jurisdiction over this, but he has been working with the Girl Scouts. He's been reviewing the trees. I believe in concept as DPW director, he's in agreement with this, but as tree warden, he doesn't have any formal control over that.
John?
Where specifically are they gonna be placed? On the town common, but do you have locations for
Let
them?
me promote Kyle to panelist as he has more information than I do.
There is a plan, I think.
What's more public than the town?
Yeah, I know.
Sounds
Hi, good evening. Yeah, so thanks for taking up this agenda item. So the plan is, so there's a master plan for trees on the town common that was created some years ago. The 2 trees that are proposing to be donated would replace trees that previously died and were removed. And our parks crew did some stump grinding in those areas this spring. So the trees will go in to replace former trees that were on the common.
Great.
Thanks.
Any other comments?
Just very generous.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cookies.
Yeah. Those are supposed to be good-sized trees. How tall are they going to be? Do you know, Kyle?
Yeah, they're about 10 to 12 feet tall and about 2 to 2.5 inches in diameter.
Great.
And our parks crew will be doing the installation.
So I would,
I'll move to accept the donation from the Girl Scouts with gratitude.
is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and yes, thank you, Girl Scout Trip 85009. That's as Tom says, that's a lot of cookies. Sorry, go ahead.
Great, so the next one is to authorize myself to sign a funding agreement with the Mass Tech Collaborative for disbursement of federal money set aside to address digital equity across the U.S. We've been working with NIMCOG on digital equity matters, so there's no strings attached for the town of Westford. This is really just allowing us to sign into this. We could get up, I believe, to $60,000 for digital equity within the town of Westford. And the IT director has reviewed this and provided a memo for your consideration.
As a practical matter, what does that mean, digital equity from a town perspective?
Sure. I mean, from a town perspective, it's ensuring that our residents have access to internet services and telephone services. So I know as part of your ARPA funding, you were allowed, you provided some funding for routers and Wi-Fi services to our housing authorities. That could be a continuation if there was any gaps there. It could be to fund other opportunities or other equipment for our town if there are gaps in certain areas.
Okay, so,
I'll move to authorize the town manager to sign.
is there a second? All in favor? Okay.
The next one is to sign an adjustment to the agreement between the Westford Fire Department and the Board of Water Commissioners to increase the size of the allowable storage structure located at 60 Forge Village Road, the fire training facility. There is a memo in your packet that shows that I believe the allowable was 12 by 12, and now the fire department would like to increase that to 12 by 40. The water commissioners have approved that. I see Chauncey Chu here from the water commissioners as well, but we would also need an approval from the select board.
But the water commission, they approved it at the, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
So next, moving on to purchase orders and contracts. I know I requested to not read all of these last time. Would you like me to read them all fully, or is there any that there's questions on?
I don't need Kristen to read them all.
I do not either.
No, I feel like our packet is a public document, so people can, yeah, peruse that. That's the whole point of having it there out there, yeah, so.
So I'll move to approve the purchase orders and contracts as listed in our agenda of June 11th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
John?
I have a question. We're including contracts. What's the reason for that hydro flow test? Don't we normally do that just part of the fire department? The one at Feingold, we're having architects do the flow test?
Yep, let me just pull that matter up.
It seems curious to have an architectural firm do a hydrant test.
Well, they'll hire a contractor.
They'll hire a contractor, they're not
So they're
doing it.
hiring a contractor to do that.
So it costs to hire the contractors.
Right, so generally the fire department doesn't do they don't do all of the testing. Usually there's an engineering firm that does those tests in addition to the fire department. And they model it as well.
I just think questioning why we need that. We're designing a new library. Okay.
We need to ensure that the size of the new library and the new piping system kind of be accommodated through the flows that we have in our hydrants at this point in time.
That's for the sprinkler system that they're
Yes,
designing?
that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
So we have a motion and a second, I believe, and all in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence?
Move waiving of correspondence?
Is there a second?
Second.
Since we had most of the people here tonight from sustainability, that actually was part of the correspondence, I think we covered it, so all in favor of waiving? Aye.
Aye.
And then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.